Well, I am Becky Bolito, and I am the post-secondary counselor at Vernon Hills High School.
And I am Amy Belstra, post-secondary counselor at Libertyville. And you might notice we have another person here. This is our guest speaker, Matt Steiner, who he will be joining us very soon to talk with you guys about a topic we know you are all stressing about right now. So I'll just leave it at that. But I guess I'm going to kick it off and say welcome, everybody. This is our annual junior program, and I will tell you that Becky and I, we talk a lot, as the two post-secondary counselors for the district, and we were trying to figure out, are we ready to do this yet? Oh my gosh, we are living in such uncertain times right now. The college application process looks a little different this year than it did before. And we realized as we talked about this that yes, some things have changed. The fact that we're doing this together as a webinar online, that's a big change from the past. But a lot of things are still the same. So our hope is that we can convey that to you tonight. And our goal is always to lessen your anxieties about this process. So let's just kick it off. How has COVID-19 changed our world when it comes to college admission? Well, you guys are all living it, virtual learning, right? You're attending school every day remotely, and you're not the only ones. So many of your friends who are in college now are going through the same thing, whether they're on campus or living at home going through this. So we're all learning how to be patient with technology, and I think there are some things that you may actually like about e-learning, but it's certainly a big change for all of us. Campus visits. You guys maybe have even had conversations about, are we going to be able to pull off a spring break college visit trip? Don't know. It's certainly changed this year. A few colleges are definitely doing on-campus visits, but not everybody is. So that's something that has definitely changed. The other thing is we normally have a good number of college reps visit us every fall, and it's all to meet with students and talk to them and recruit them. This year it moved online, and we were able to combine that with Vernon Hills, with Carmel Catholic, and many of you might have attended those college rep conversations, and they were pretty fabulous, honestly. I think there were some great dialogues that happened. You all know that activities have definitely been prohibited this year, and it's been hard for everybody. Sports, clubs, a lot of things are changing. You may have even had jobs before this and maybe aren't working right now. So a lot of students have, they're kind of stressing, is that going to impact my college applications? I think you're going to be okay. It's been interesting watching the news come out from colleges in terms of just applications this fall. They are down a bit, and colleges are definitely keeping an eye on that. The Common App reported that applications overall are down around 5%, 5 to 10%. So they're watching that to see if that changes. And then, of course, the big one that happened this year is that colleges, the majority of them, became test optional. In other words, they are not requiring a test score as part of the application process. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. Okay, back. So we had to ask ourselves, our crystal ball's broken right now, because we rely on being able to sort of predict what might happen in the college admission process. That's something Becky and I spend our days doing. And we had to ask, what changed? We feel like they're not broken. There are a lot of things that are still the same. Colleges still care about your grades and your coursework. Are you challenging yourself? They care about how you spend your time, even during a pandemic. They want you to develop those relationships with your teachers so that they can hear what you are like as a student in their classroom, even if the classroom's online. And obviously, keeping your grades up during a pandemic, it matters. That's going to be perhaps the big thing that colleges are going to be paying attention to as part of your application process. When you get this presentation, when we send it out to you, there are links to 2 great articles that may give you a better overview of this. So come back and look at this presentation when it's done and check out these articles that are linked here. All right.
All right, so broadly, what we are going to cover tonight, first, we're going to cover testing. We're going to talk about finding your correct college fit. We'll cover resources and research, upcoming programs, a general timeline for what things can be done looking forward to second semester and over the summer. And then, like I mentioned before, we'll have a little time for Q&A at the end. So for testing, let's see here. So far, there hasn't been a lot of testing for the current juniors. Some of you may have taken the PSAT. Those scores are going to be released online December 7th. A paper copy will be mailed home mid-January. Right now, the state SAT is scheduled for Tuesday, April 13th for all juniors. You don't need to do anything to register your junior. The schools take care of that, and that SAT will include the writing portion of the SAT. And then, surprise, if you want to take a look at your PSAT score, you can do so by logging into your Naviance or SCORE accounts, which we'll talk more about in future slides. So just stay tuned on that. So upcoming SAT dates. These are the national dates, so these are the ones that you would have to register for as a student. December 5th, March 13th, May 8th, June 5th. Like Matt's going to cover, there's uncertainty as to which tests may actually be canceled and which dates might move forward. There's a lot of uncertainty there. In the meantime, the district does advise juniors to utilize Khan Academy as a free test prep material. You can actually take a practice SAT on Khan Academy. You can link your Khan Academy account to your College Board account if you took the PSAT, and it will provide you with a personalized test prep plan. So it's pretty spectacular for a free resource. So take advantage of that. ACT, you can see all the dates that are listed there. And again, you would have to register at act.org for that. There is no equivalent to Khan Academy for the ACT. There is some free test prep, but it is not as dynamic as what you will get from the Khan Academy website. And then without any further ado, I do want to turn this over to Matt Steiner. He is a senior director at Compass Prep. He spoke last year in February. Seems so long ago, a different world. And we got rave reviews. Perhaps some of you listened to him speak about testing and what it was like back then. Well, as you can imagine, that whole situation has changed a bunch. So he is also going to be speaking to District 128 families on February 9th, but he's going to hop in here for just a few minutes to give you his current thoughts on testing.
Thank you so much, Becky and Amy. I so appreciate the opportunity to chat with you. And really, as you said, this is like to set the table, or in the words of, like, I don't know if any of you watched Chopped, but this is the amuse-bouche for testing. It's the little bite. I'm not trying to be comprehensive. I'm mostly trying to turn the burner down on a topic that right now I think is laden with far more meaning and importance than it needs to be. And just so you know a little bit about Compass, although as a business we do provide test preparation, we're also leaned into as an organization that is a consumer watchdog for the testing industry that provides really thought-provoking pieces about how these exams function, how they serve or don't serve students. So both tonight and in the presentation that will be more comprehensive in February, we're not really decoding test prep per se. It's not a thinly veiled sales pitch. It's about empowering you with information so you can make more informed and thoughtful choices. And as a result of COVID, and as Becky had said at the beginning of the presentation, about, I think, 96 or 97% of colleges across the country for the class of 2021, likely a large proportion of those are going to remain test optional for the class of 2022 as well. The decision tree around testing has grown more complex. You might be wondering, do I even sidestep this whole mess, the rigmarole of testing, or do I engage? Is it an opportunity for me to show strength? What I want to say to junior families right now is that, first off, the writing on the wall is that it doesn't look so great with regard to the December and winter test dates, that you shouldn't be risking your health, your safety, your sanity to sit for one of these exams if it's unsafe, if there's likely to be a cancellation. And we don't have a crystal ball, but we can be hopeful and try and prepare as best we can for these contingency plans that we need to make. Most juniors, I'm hopeful, with the dispensation of the vaccine and safety around congregating in groups, you will be able to viably take these exams in the spring of your junior year. Ideally, that April school-based exam will happen, and then well into your summer and fall of senior year, which truly, even regardless of the pandemic, was an optimal time to sit for these exams. You do your best when you've been exposed to the full duration of your coursework and you've grown as a cumulative reader and mathematician, okay? Really, I just want to point out that one of the silver linings of the pandemic, which we'll describe in full detail later, is the kind of 31 flavors of test optional policies that exist right now. And what I hope to uncover for you in the presentation in February is not whether or not to test, because I think that most students are likely to take these exams, but instead, when does it behoove you? When does it enhance your application to sit for these exams? And when does it make sense to elegantly stand back and let the rest of the application do the talking, okay? So with that, I think Becky and Amy, I'm gonna let you take over the rest of the evening. I wanna point out that if you'd like a taste of some of our other resources, one, there are links to both our comprehensive guide to college admission testing and our resource center, where we talk specifically about all the nooks and crannies of the test optional movement. Until then, I bid you all adieu, but do not give testing a second or a cent more than it needs to right now. You should really be focusing on other elements of the college process. Amy and Becky were just very kind to let me speak to you first so I could dip out for another presentation. So thank you, you two, and I look forward to seeing you again in the winter.
Matt, you rock. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Matt is so popular, everybody. He's on his way to another presentation. So we were lucky to get him because he's actually based in LA. So yet another silver lining, I guess, of the pandemic right now. So, okay, now let's get into the nitty gritty. So juniors, hopefully that helped to just settle your nerves a little bit about testing. But now let's talk about the bigger picture. Where do you start? Well, first off, the majority of you are probably thinking, I'm going to go on and do college, right? And that's great. For both Vernon Hills and Libertyville, the majority of our students every year choose to go on to either a 4-year or a 2-year college. But before we jump into that, I do want to make it plain that, our students do choose a variety of options. We have students who choose to go into the military, who take a gap year, and certainly right now, I think a lot of students are considering that option. We have students who go into the workforce, who do a variety of things. So we're going to be focusing on college tonight because that is a process that requires quite a bit of preparation just to get yourself right in the mindset for that. So where do you start for that? Why college? Why do you want to go? So these might be some of the reasons you think about, because everybody else is doing it, right? It's sort of an expected outcome in our District 128. Maybe it's because it's easier than working. I would argue that, but some might say that. Maybe it's because your parents won't let you sponge off of them anymore and they want you out of the basement or out of the house. Maybe it's because you're passionate about something, whatever it might be, and you're really looking forward to learning about it more. But for most students, it's going to be because they want to continue their education. They want to go on to that next step.
Okay, so before we get started on finding the fit, I just kind of wanted to cover some basic tips and guidelines for surviving this whole process. So the first and most important one, I would argue, is that students, you need to take ownership of the process. If you are lucky to have parents who want to guide and help and support you on the way, that's great, but you need to be the one who is leading the way. Parents, help guide the process. There are a lot of ways that you can help your students. It can be super overwhelming. So I think it's good to figure out ways that you can be helpful without doing the work for your students. Communication is key. Last year, I believe our College Palooza keynote speaker said something that was really sat well with me was, it can be a constant conversation and then it ends up being a tension in the family when college comes up. And so he suggested setting maybe a time once a week or once a month or whatever, where as a family, you're going to discuss college and then not bring it up outside of that time. It can just become all consuming and it can be a stressor within the family too. You have to do the research. There's no shortcuts. Go on visits. Maybe, right? There are a lot of virtual visits and hopefully, moving forward into the spring, maybe on-campus visits will become available again. Set realistic expectations, avoid comparisons. Don't worry about what your friends or your neighbors, what their college planning looks like. Everyone is going to have their own path, and then just maintain the focus then on finding the right fit for you, which may not be the right fit for your best friend. So then we really like this quotation, this college is a match to be made, not a prize to be won. All too often, students and parents are romanced by a name rather than looking for the best matches. In the end, the best fit should be what the student determines, and there should be several fits, not just one. And I think that just kind of sets the tone, this idea that, it would be way easier if you could go to a book and say, I want to study this, and here are the 3 places where you should look at for college. It doesn't work that way, which can make it very overwhelming, but you want to focus on finding the fit. And that involves 3 key areas: the academic fit, the social fit, and the financial fit. And all 3 are very important. So what makes a college a good fit? Is it financially attainable? Do they have your program of study? Is it at an appropriate level of rigor for you? When you are there or when you're talking with the college reps, does it feel like home? And then finally, this is really important. You want to feel valued by the college that you attend. Colleges can go out of their way to be very welcoming and available to answer questions, et cetera, et cetera. You want to feel like that college really values you and wants you on their campus. So saying that, then maybe the best fit may not be where your parents went to college or where your boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend currently attends. Who won the national championship, right? As fun as it can look to be in those stands, that might not be the sign that that school's for you. Or who has the coolest car decal, all right? So, oops, I need to go back here. Okay. All right, Amy, are you ready to cover the next one?
I sure can. So these are some of the things we're going to highlight for you. When you're creating a college list, just as Becky said, it takes some thinking and some sort of self-analysis, honestly, to really figure out what you value and what's going to be most important to you. So we're going to go through each of these things and kind of highlight them a little bit for you. So cost, major, size, location, academic programs, admission, student body, the social atmosphere, and extracurriculars.
Alrighty, so first up is cost. The sooner you begin talking about cost with your parents, the better it is. I've had a lot of really difficult conversations with students and parents in spring of the senior year when the money and all the offers kind of come together, and there has been a disconnect between what the student expects for tuition versus what the parents are able to afford. So students engage in that conversation now. Educate yourself about the financial aid process. One of the reasons why this can be a very confusing process is a lot of times you are shopping before you know the cost of a school, because the sticker price at many private schools, for example, is not going to be the price that 90% of their students are paying. So don't rule out schools because of cost initially. You never know, especially with private schools, what they do to bring that cost down to make the school more affordable. The best tool that is out there right now is the net price calculator, and it is something that every college needs to have on its website. There's also other ways in SCORE, for example, to use a net price calculator where basically you're inputting some of your family's financial information, and then it will give you an estimate as to what that school will end up costing you. Really pursue scholarships. They are time consuming, but the kids that are winning a bunch of them are the kids that are applying to a bunch of them. And being admitted to a school does not mean you're going to automatically receive a scholarship, contrary to some word out there. So for a lot of students, CLC is a great option. And I think with the pandemic, we've had even more students that are considering it as a stepping stone to their four-year degree. Some of the reasons why, of course, financial. The total cost of tuition and fees for this year is $4,116. There are a couple programs. The CLC Scholars Program is a merit-based program. CLC Promise is a need-based program, but with both of those, it covers tuition and fees, and in some cases, books for those students. Some students, they need to stay close to home. Maybe there's a medical concern and they need to be by their doctor, or maybe they aren't as excited about the options that they have with their current high school GPA and they want a fresh start and see what happens after they take classes at CLC. Like we said, letting the pandemic run its course, kind of, waiting to see how everything plays out before committing to that four-year school. And then of course, there are a lot of kids who really aren't certain about majors. And while you can be an undecided major anywhere, some students just feel like they don't want to pay as much money and decide to do their exploratory program at CLC. And for some students, they're just not quite ready to be launched yet. It's still comfortable to live at home, to stay with maybe their part-time job in the area. And CLC is a good option for those students too.
So a lot of students, as they're thinking about their options, obviously CLC is kind of a nice segue into this. If we were all in a room together and I could ask you this question, I would say, so how many of you already know what you want to study in college? And probably about a third of you would raise your hands and say, oh, I do. I'm set, dude, I'm good. And then I'd say, okay, how many of you have a good idea of what you want to study, but you're not 100% sure? And probably another third of you would raise your hand and have an idea. And then I would ask, how many of you are totally clueless and you have absolutely no idea? And again, about a third of you would raise your hand. So we get that question a lot. How do I look for a college when I don't know what I want to study yet? I was a perfect example of that. I think Mrs. Bolito and I had different experiences, but I was convinced I was going to be a marine biologist. Obviously that didn't work out, although I could do it in retirement. We'll see. But how do you know? How do you pursue this when you're just not sure? But what if I have interest, but not a definite career choice? Is it worth it to spend the money with a specific major, or should I wait until I have a better idea? These are honestly great questions. And it's not that we have the perfect answer for them, but I want to flip the question a little bit. So if you're not sure what you want to major in, let's flip it. So what can you ask yourself instead? Well, what problems do I want to solve? It's not like the world doesn't have some pretty big problems out there right now that need the attention of your generation to really figure out how to fix them. What issues do I want to explore? Who do I want to help? Those are questions that if you ask yourself and really take some time to try and figure out the answer, you might be surprised at what you find out. So let's talk about that. Undeclared is honestly okay. If anything, we like to normalize that for you guys because a lot of students change their major once they get to college, at least once. It's not unusual to change it more than that. I think I did maybe 4 or 5 times while I was in college because I was one of those students, yes, who didn't know. Colleges tell us that it's close to 100%, 80 to 90% of their alumni who graduated more than 25 years ago are now in careers that didn't exist when they graduated. I always like to pull out my phone when I talk about this with students and say, okay, how long ago was it that the iPhone was created? It's about 12 years ago. Think about how many jobs now revolve around apps, around communication, around the technology, just related to smartphones, right? Those jobs were not there 12 years ago. They have evolved over time and will continue to do so. So just something to keep in mind. How do you prepare yourself for a job that you don't even know about yet? Because the average person is going to change careers 5 to 7 times during their working life. Honestly, that is not unusual in this day and age. And 30% of the total workforce is going to now change jobs every 12 months. Certainly the pandemic has wrought some changes with that as well. And it'll be interesting to see, honestly, how these statistics change over the next couple of years. So how do you figure things out? Well, there are some resources available for you. Now, this one I realize is very dependent on what might happen next summer, but I still think that you can try on a career. There are ways to have conversations with people that might be in a career you're interested in, whether it's in the healthcare field, whether it's engineering, whether it's business, whether it's teaching, whether it's any number of things, right? Going back to that marine biologist example, for example, we have a lot of students who get involved with the shed to find some experience there. So at this point in December of your junior year, how do you start planning for your summer? Certainly, Mrs. Bolito and I, through the CRCs, we will be sharing out any information we get on summer programs, summer jobs, internships that we might hear about. And right now, we aren't hearing about a lot. But you can still create opportunities to do things by just reaching out to your family, friends, or making a cold call to an employer. You'd be amazed how far that can go simply because you're being proactive. If you're working right now, talk with your employer. What are some things you might be able to do above and beyond your current job just to learn about it? And we're both going to talk about this because Libertyville and Vernon Hills utilize different tools to help you explore careers. At Libertyville, we primarily use Naviance, and there are a wide variety of different assessments on there that juniors now might be the time when you're going, yeah, okay, I am really interested in this and I want to see what's out there. If you go to the careers tab, you'll find a wide variety. You may remember doing the Do What You Are personality type assessment from your freshman year. Becky, do you want to talk about SCORE?
Yeah, sure. So the main career inventory and score is called U-Science, which is an up and coming and kind of cutting edge aptitude test. It's a series of about 10 or 11 brain games where you're answering questions and you're manipulating things on the screen, and you don't necessarily know what the quiz is aiming to assess. And you do have about 10 minutes for each brain game, but you don't get your results until you finish all of them. And one of the quizzes is an interest inventory. So students have really enjoyed seeing how their aptitudes come back. Like, what are they naturally good at? Where do their natural talents lie? And how does that match up with certain careers they may be interested in? So you have to be patient. You don't have to sit for all 11 brain games at once. You can take them, over a long, a month's time even, but you won't get to see the dynamic results until you finish all of those quizzes. And we included a little video for U-Science just to kind of give you an overview. So when we send this out, if you want to check that out. And then I just put a little note there. Both Libertyville and Vernon Hills have access to SCORE, and there are parent accounts as well as student accounts. And so after this meeting, I will be sending out maybe tomorrow, the invites to anyone who has not yet registered for SCORE. And you need to check your email because the registration link expires after 72 hours. If you don't get an email, there's a very good chance, this happens often, that you may have activated your account a year ago and have no recollection of that. And then you'll be able to go through the forgot your password process to be able to access your account.
Same here. We'll do the same thing through Libertyville tomorrow. The last thing we want to point out is at the bottom, you see a link to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. They actually have an awesome program explorer tool on their website that we just wanted to draw attention to. Even if you have absolutely no interest in checking out U of I, it's an excellent website. You can explore majors, but it actually links you to, this is awesome that Becky's going to show you this. At the top, you'll see need help finding a major, start here. And it has a whole connection to the ONED interest profiler. This is used by a lot of colleges actually to help students do some career exploration. And it's excellent. It helps you find your Holland type and link that based on that, if you're an artistic type or realistic or social or enterprising, to link that with different types of majors that fit what your interests are. So again, even if you're not considering U of I, this is an excellent website to explore and just see how it fits for you and what your interests might be.
Okay. The next factor to consider with finding your fit would be the size of a college. Class sizes have a huge range depending on the campus. They can be 30 or 300 or larger than that. The campus size, is it a sprawling campus or is it really compact? Does it feel overwhelming or does it feel manageable? And the same campus that's manageable to one person may be totally overwhelming to another. So some of the myths, that we hear or statements is, I don't want to go to college at a place that's smaller than my high school, or you can always make a big school small, but you can't make a small school big, right? A lot of times I think families or students don't consider small schools because of ideas like that. But truly, I think when students step foot on a smaller school, they realize it doesn't feel like high school, that there are, lots of buildings, that it's definitely still a college feel and might be a more comfortable feel for them than being kind of more anonymous on campus. The other thing is, you can't make a you can make a big school small, true, but one of the tips we like to suggest is to find out for each college, how many students does their largest lecture hall seat. So if you go to a school and they say, here's our largest lecture hall, it's 50, right? You know that you're not going to be in a class with 700 students. And for some kids, that's important, and others, it's less important, but just keep your minds open during that part of the process. For location, this is another way, like if students aren't quite sure what they want to study, a lot of times they might have a strong opinion on size or location. Do you want to be close to home, or do you want to be really far away from home, maybe somewhere warm? Do you want to be in state or out of state? And don't assume that just because a school is out of state that it's going to be a lot more expensive than some of the in-state options. There's a program called the Midwest Student Exchange Program, and we've linked to its website right now where you can get a list of all of the colleges that participate, and there's a tuition discount for Illinois students. And each school kind of has their own certain like rules around that program, but it's all laid out on that website. There are some schools, we always get this question like, well, where are the schools where we can, declare residency? Like we have a lake home in Wisconsin, or I'm thinking of moving to Michigan. Well, there's not a ton of, that going on there. Schools have been very strict with it, but there are schools like Mizzou and Utah that put it out there that students are able to declare residency after they do X, Y, and Z. So a lot of Vernon Hills students I know will go to Mizzou, spend the summer there after freshman year and get residency. There's of course some other things you have to do, but it's really not difficult. So those are all things to consider. How far away is it from amenities? Do you like an urban feel? Are you okay being somewhere that's surrounded by cornfields and it's really focused on the college town? These are all things to consider in regards to location.
All right, so we're good. We're doing good, guys. We're through at least half of these different factors for you to consider. This is a pretty big one, academic programs. And obviously, Mrs. Bolito and I are both educators, so we want to kind of educate you a little bit here. One of the biggest questions we often get is, what's the difference between a college and university? And when I poll students with that, they don't always know. So we're going to give you a poll and see if you can tell what the difference is between a college and a university. See how many of you get it right. Oh, people are changing their answers.
All right, just 10 more seconds and we'll close the polls. This is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's very good.
All right.
All right.
So let's close the polls. Let's share those results.
All right. Ding, 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 ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Those who answered D, universities offer advanced degrees, got it right. A lot of people do think that size difference is one of the things, that colleges are always smaller than universities, but honestly, that's not always the big difference. Universities do offer a lot of majors, but so do many smaller colleges. You guys didn't fall, nobody fell for number B, colleges are more expensive, but the big difference between a college and a university is that a university typically has graduate degrees like master's and doctorate degrees, that they will offer those programs for students. So you'll hear them talk about graduate students and undergraduate students, which are your first 4 years of college. Okay, let's try another poll.
All right.
Mrs. Bolito is getting really good at these. So, liberal arts and sciences versus comprehensive university. What does liberal arts really mean? Go ahead and have at it.
All right, take 5 more seconds, put in your vote. All right.
All right. Nobody fell for our other fun answers. A lot of people are like, well, you have to be artsy to go to a liberal arts school, right? No, you don't have to be politically liberal to go to a liberal arts school. And engineering is often offered at liberal arts and sciences schools. So let me give you a crash course in this. You guys got it absolutely correct. Students take a sampling of courses from a wide variety of areas. So what does that really mean? A liberal arts college, and remember the whole phrase is liberal arts and sciences, okay? Liberal means a lot, right? A liberal helping of something. And what they do is they ask you to take courses in a wide variety of areas. Why? What's the point of that? Well, what every college wants you to do is graduate with a broader perspective on the world. If you look at a current event, and we've got a big one going on right now, we have a global pandemic. And if you actually start to think about what are the academic areas that apply to that situation? Well, certainly science, many different sciences, history, economics, psychology and sociology, how it's impacting us mentally, right? Politics has definitely come into it. All sorts, we're just scratching the surface here, but you can start to see that there's every academician, every person with a different college major could approach the global pandemic from their perspective. So what liberal arts is doing is trying to get you to see things more broadly and understand those perspectives and then be a more critical thinker. So that's the end of your lesson. But hopefully you can go out now and tell everybody that, hey, I actually know what liberal arts and sciences mean. Other things that may also be part of this are the majors that the school offers. Is it a school where you feel like you have enough options, especially if you're undecided, to pursue what you want to pursue? Study abroad. Colleges do this in a wide variety of ways. Some of them have their own programs. Others are connected with other colleges' programs. Every college has study abroad, though. That should never be a deal breaker for you. Career placement. What are they doing to help students find jobs? And are they starting you with career preparation from your freshman year? And then is it a competitive or a collaborative kind of environment? Do students do a lot of group work? Is it something where students are supported and by not only their faculty, but by each other?
Okay, and then of course, another important piece of developing your college list and finding the fit is figuring out where you fit in the college's academic profile. In both Naviance and SCORE, you can find graphs like the ones that's on the slide where this is data that's specific to your individual high school, so either Libertyville or Vernon Hills, and it shows plot points where former students who have applied where their GPAs and ACT or SAT score fall. And it marks it as being, where is the 25th percentile, where's the middle 50 percentile, and you can get a good sense for where you're going to fall based on this data. And this data is better than even the national averages because it is specific to Libertyville and Vernon Hills, and colleges know our curriculum and regard each application based in the context of the school the student attends. So you can find this information on Naviance and SCORE. You can figure out, where you land, is this a reach school? Is this a probable school? And even if you don't currently have a test score, it's still really helpful to look at the GPA. We still think that you can utilize these graphs for GPA purposes to see the likelihood of being admitted.
So one of the other factors you probably want to think about is, who do I want to be around me? Remember, Mrs. Bolito talked about, finding a place that feels like home. Well, what does that look like? Do you want people who look and act like you? Do you want it to feel pretty comfortable in that way? Or do you want to have more exposure to students from different parts of the country or world, or students of color that you may not have had in your high school? Colleges, through their websites, through their marketing materials, through anything they use to talk about themselves, they let you know that what's the personality of that college. So you have to kind of look for the keywords. How do they describe their students? You know, do they describe them politically? Do they describe them as adventurous or outdoorsy, independent, intellectual? You know, what are the keywords that they're using to describe their student body? And does that resonate with you? I think that's, again, part of that self-analysis of trying to figure out not only who do you want around you, but who are you in that community?
Okay. Got some questions I was taking
Yep,
notes on, but we're all good. All right. So the social atmosphere, you know, some students are really involved in certain clubs, activities, sports in high school, and they're looking for more of that in college. So what is the social vibe on campus? Is Greek life something that is a big part of campus life? And is that something you would like or maybe not like as much? What kind of speakers are they bringing in onto campus? Whenever you go to some of these college rep visits, they're going to talk about some of the things going on campus. And so it's really important that, you know, you're living at this place. This is where you're going to be spending a lot of time. So you want to make sure that the social atmosphere is something that you connect with. Some schools, you know, are known to be, you know, a suitcase college, meaning that a lot of students go home on the weekends, right? Maybe they all come from the suburbs of Chicago and go home. Like, what does the weekend look like? And those are things that you can ask when you're on campus of the student guides, but you can also find out by asking around and talking to former students who attend that school. And then finally, you know, knowing where students come from. You can go to a school that is, you know, across the country, and it could pull from all 50 states, or you could go to one of the UC schools in California where 85% of students are from California. And how comfortable are you going to be being one of the few kids that comes from Chicago? That may be something that you actually seek out, and that sounds exciting to you, but these are all things to consider.
All right. So right now, I would guess that all of you are craving extracurriculars. You're trying to figure out how to fit those back into your life in some way or another. Well, colleges are full of student organizations and sports and intramurals and so many different things. And I really encourage you to think about, what are the things I would love to get involved in? It may be something you've never done before. I remember a student coming back to see me years ago who had been kind of sporty in high school, honestly. And yeah, he joined the ballroom dancing club. Blew my mind. I was like, you're kidding. He's like, yeah, it's awesome. I absolutely love ballroom dancing. I had another student who went off and joined a percussion club, one of those ones where they bang on barrels and stuff like that. So, you know, it was not something he had ever done in high school, but he loved it. Think about what's, again, important to you and what you want to do. Maybe it's a knitting club, and maybe it's getting involved in the arts, in the band, in the marching band, in the theater program, and dance. At some schools, being involved in different clubs can be competitive, especially in things like the arts. In others, it's wide open. Anybody can join. So it's something to ask as you're again, investigating and researching schools. A couple other things you may want to think about. And again, there are some links here to help educate and inform. The vast majority of our students do choose co-ed colleges, but there are all women and all men's colleges out there. More all women's colleges than men's. But these are some pretty amazing places. Every time I visited a all-women's college, I am blown away by the young women who attend. They are some of the most empowered people I know. And when it comes to all men's colleges, the one that comes to mind immediately is Wabash College in Indiana. It's a small school, but their sports programs are amazing. Their facilities are amazing. And it's an excellent college. So that's something to ask yourself. Are you open to a new experience? And it may be worth checking it out. Maybe attending a school that is affiliated or sponsored by a particular religious organization might be important to you. Going to a Christian college, a Catholic college, a school that has maybe more Jewish students. Certainly that can be something you can look for. Are you a recruited athlete? We do whole presentations on what that means. But that is something that you definitely need to educate yourself about if it's something either you're considering or is already starting to happen for you. And then talking about historically Black colleges and universities or Hispanic serving institutions. That's what HBCU and HSI stands for. Again, these are amazing schools that you may want to learn a little bit more about if that's something that interests you. And there are links here to take you to some websites that'll show you what schools fall into those categories. So I think we hit them all. At this point, what do you do with all that information? Well, Mrs. Bolito and I are going to be sharing a lot of information out with you guys over the course of the rest of the school year. We're just getting started, guys. We don't stop working with you, even past graduation in some situations. But now is the time when you need to start thinking, okay, out of all of those things, which ones are most important to me? Which are the things that I want to prioritize? So you can do it on a set of index cards. You can put them all in a Google Doc or a Google Sheet and sort them out. But list all of the things we talked about and then put them in order for you. What makes the most sense?
All right. So a lot of students will come to me and say, how many schools should I apply to? And my answer, like so many different questions, is, well, it depends, right? That answer is going to be different for every student. It could be anywhere from 1 to 10. Both Amy and I tell students and families, if your list exceeds 10 schools, come talk to us, because that can be a lot of stress that you're inviting. And we just love to have a conversation with you to make sure that, we can talk through things. So LHS averages 4.8 applications per student. Vernon Hills is right around the same at 4. Your list must include a foundation school, okay, a school where you can get accepted, that financially your family can make work, and that you would be happy at. For some kids, that foundation school, they know they're going to get accepted. They apply there, they get accepted, they're done, right? So for some kids, the application process is as painless as that. But it could also include several probable schools and certainly several reach schools as well. And like I said, we talk about having a foundation school on your list. And again, it's finding this that's most important, one where you'll be able to get accepted and that you can afford, and where you can be happy, right? It's when students come to me and say, like, well, I know I'll get in there, but there's no way I would not want to go there. Well, there is a school out there that you can get accepted to, that you can be excited about. So come talk to us and we can start generating ideas.
Okay, so we're going to have a little fun, guys. We're going to test your assumptions. I'm going to tell you about 4 different colleges, but I'm not going to tell you the name of the school. And at the end, we're going to see which one you feel like would be the best fit for you. So we're going to go through the 4. School number 1, I just want you to look at the pictures real quickly, get a sense of it. Okay. Now, this is a private university in a city, so I would consider it urban, 15,000 students. They have some pretty amazing fine arts programs. Their animation major is ranked number 4 in the United States. over 300 academic programs, but all are combined with a liberal arts core curriculum. So yes, larger schools do offer liberal arts. They operate on the quarter system. They have accelerated programs in medicine, physician's assistant, pharmacy, physical therapy, and more. And here's a little hint, it's not far from your home. Okay, that's school number one, remember that. Okay, school number two, again, this might be giving a little bit away about the location with all the snow there. Let me tell you about school number two. So this is a public school, 7,000 students, so mid-size. The average class size is about 25 to 30 students. It's a STEM-focused school. Number two nationally in colleges where grads make six figures right out of college. Crazy smart students. The average is a 3.8 GPA that would be unweighted for incoming freshmen. Research projects recently include launching nano satellites into space, prosthetics for amputees, and artificial intelligence for kids. And snowboarding, as you could see from the pictures, is a PE class option. Okay, school number three. Again, take a look at this. All of them, you know, they have beautiful pictures of their campus, but get a sense of this. All right, school number three, private, about 1,000 students. Students take one class at a time. So it's pretty intense. The academic rigor is there. It's a liberal arts school, but they do offer engineering, business, and education. They have a very diverse student body, both geographically and ethnically. 52% of the students study off campus. Their recent courses, again, one class at a time, include Geology of New Zealand, Medieval Lit in Florence, Gender and Development in India, and Macroeconomics in Shanghai. They offer a dance major, those are hard to find, and a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Musical Theater. It's a small town setting, but there are major college towns within about a half an hour. All right, and finally, school number four. Again, I'll give you a second to just take in these photos. All right, this is a private school, 14,000 students, Division I. You might have noticed the football stadium. The mission is to educate students for worldwide leadership and service by integrating academic excellence and Christian commitment in a caring community. They are a national research institution, so they're very well funded when it comes to research for undergraduates. Traditions include the line, which was the group of students heading out onto the football field, the Dr. Pepper Hour, and student zookeepers for their school mascot. And it is one of the least expensive private schools in the US. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, hopefully you remembered them. Which one best fits you? We're gonna do a poll. Tell us which one you would choose out of those 4 schools. Let's see which one wins.
All right, 5 seconds, get your vote in.
All right.
All right.
This is kind of interesting. All right, so college number 1 came in at the top with 36%, followed by college 2 at 30, college 4 at 22, and college 3 at 13. So you might notice already that college 1 is DePaul University. Yes, right here in our backyard. College 2 was Michigan Tech University, way up there in the UP, close to Canada on Lake Superior. That's why they do have snow. College 3 is Cornell College in Iowa. It's one of only 2 colleges in the country that offers what they call the block plan, where you take one class at a time. And then college 4 was Baylor University in Texas. All right, good job, you guys. That actually came out about what I would have expected. So that was kind of fun to see what you chose.
Okay, so we have given you a lot to think about, and throughout the presentation, we've tried to link as much to outside resources as possible, but we also have a few slides coming up here just to give you some ideas for where you can find some of this information and how you can conduct your research. So we got a question in the Q&A asking, how do I get onto Naviance, or how do I get onto SCORE? And it's linked right in here. I promise you that probably on your LHS and VHHS websites and individual CRC sites, we have these links all the time, but we'll both make sure that that's very much out there for all you juniors if you're wanting to get logged on to Naviance and SCORE. Going to the college website is usually the best place to make sure you're getting like the most up-to-date, accurate information from the college. We had a question in there like, is it better to look at the stats from a Google search or on the college's website? And I would definitely always say to go to the source, to go to that college website, especially when it comes down to like when you start applying. Colleges change their requirements all the time. And so it can be very easy for other websites to become out of date. We link to some guidebooks that are suggested. This is an article that talks about like 10 different types of guidebooks that you can look into. And then both Naviance and SCORE have great individual college info pages that you can explore by doing some like one-stop research.
Do you want me to do this one?
I flipped my page. Sorry. Alrighty. So there are websites that give you the student's opinion on things, right? And so that's who you should be talking to. That's who you want to hear from, not necessarily just people who attended there 20 years ago. You want to get reviews from current students. Here's some links to that. There's now that the pandemic hit, schools have really been stepping up their online resources. And so all colleges now have virtual tours. Here's a couple websites where you can find those. Also, when you log into SCORE and search for an individual college, you will find that a lot of those colleges have a virtual tour linked into SCORE. They also have something called Campus Reel, which is different little short clips of students guiding you around different experiences on campus. And then, again, it's from the student perspective. All right, now Amy, there you go.
So here's some other things we highly recommend you do that maybe you didn't think about doing, honestly. One of the best things, especially if you do know what you want to study, find the department website on their school website, right? If you're interested in anthropology, for example, go to the anthropology website and kind of get lost in there. Look at the courses that they offer. Is it a pretty robust program? Is there a lot to choose from? Or is it pretty basic? That is, as you start to compare colleges, you'll be able to see the differences in what they offer. What are the research projects that professors are doing? Where did the professors go to college? Lose yourself a little bit in learning about them. They're the folks you're going to be learning from. So if they're not exciting, that's not a good sign, right? So get lost a little bit in that. Look at the department website. Okay, let's have a quick conversation about your email. You may already be getting emails from colleges. Because you have not had a lot of opportunity to test yet, you may not be inundated with that, and that's okay. But we really do want you to manage your email. One of the things that we've seen working with the seniors this year is their inboxes are out of control. Honestly, the colleges are crazy about emailing students because that's one of the few ways they think they can reach you, right? So if you are getting emails from a college that you're not interested in, unsubscribe. Just take those 2 seconds to click the unsubscribe button, right? Get them out of your inbox. If you are getting emails from a college you're interested in, by all means, open that email, check it out, see what they have to say. We included online college fairs. We're going to talk about that just a little bit more in a second. We anticipate that the spring is going to be very busy with online offerings for students and parents to learn more about colleges. If you get on a college's email list, they will keep you apprised of when they're doing these online programs. So that's a good thing to do. And talking with admission representatives, one of the things we heard over and over this fall from our lovely admission reps that were meeting with our students is that they are more than happy to do this with you online, to have an online meeting, do a quick Zoom call with you and answer your questions. So don't be afraid to reach out. Even if that feels a little uncomfortable, you will find out that they are the most awesome, lovely, accessible people out there. Honestly, it's just like talking to us. All right. Couple more things. If you are interested in a college that you know someone who is either there or had graduated from that school, talk with them, find out about their experience. They're one of your best resources. And then just again, to reiterate about campus visits, virtual visits, these colleges have really stepped up their game. If you go to their website, their virtual tours now are slick. They are really pretty amazing. So get on there, check them out. If you can do an in-person visit, these are just some things you might want to check out and see if you can do, even sitting in on a class if they are doing that. Again, we don't know what our world is going to look like in 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. We might be in a different place. So these may be more common things that you can do. All right.
Okay, so some upcoming programs that you can look forward to. Last year, we did invite sophomores to our College Palooza, which took place at Libertyville on a Saturday. I think it was like a 3-hour event maybe with breakout sessions. This year, we are not going to be hosting College Palooza in person, and we are also not going to be having a marathon day on Zoom. What we have decided to do is to offer all of the sessions, and actually probably more, that we've done at College Palooza, but to spread them out over the month of February. One of the perks of that is that sessions will not be competing with one another. So if there is more than one session you want to attend, it's not going to be a schedule conflict, at least with another session. We will be recording these sessions. So if you're not able to make it, you'll have access to it later. So we're pretty excited about the future of College Palooza. And so we're not canceling, we're modifying. Like we said, upcoming college fairs, they're going to be virtual, but there have not been any specifics. Honestly, it was pretty recent that the different associations came out and said that they're not going to be doing in-person college fairs. And so the rest of the details we expect to follow. And as soon as we get that info, we will, of course, share that out with all families.
All right. So knowing that we're over our hour, we're going to kind of whip through these second semester things that you should be working on as we get into 2021, which I think we're all ready to get to. So go ahead and go to the next slide for me. All right. So some of the big things that are going to be happening very soon, registration. So as you plan for senior year, one of the good things to do is actually just check out the requirements for colleges that you may be thinking about. There's a couple that I want to point out for you. The University of California and the California State University systems, right? So these are big systems of many different schools. They're quirky, and it's important that you know what they require. For example, at the University of California and California State schools, so that's like San Diego State, Cal State, San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, they require 1 year of the same fine art. So if you took a year of choir or a year of band or orchestra, you're good. If you took ceramics and drawing 1, doesn't count. It would have to be ceramics 1 and 2 or drawing 1 and 2, okay? So that's just for the University of California system. We hear this often, oh, every college requires me to take a fine arts class. No, not the case. It's the California schools. They also do not consider AP Research and AP Seminar, which we consider English classes. They do not consider those English. So if you are taking those classes, you can still apply to these schools, but they have testing requirements that replace the class instead. So we've linked to their website here so you can learn more about it. If you have questions, highly recommend you talk with your counselor or with Mrs. Bolito or I. We can help you out with that. Foreign language is also another kind of sticky area. Most of our students take 2 to 3 years, and for the vast majority of colleges, that's fine. But let me talk about University of Illinois, for example. If you take 4 years of a language in high school, you do not have to take any in college, regardless of your major, right? So they will allow you to apply with less than that and be admitted. But the more you take, the less you're going to take in college. Now, if you find foreign language difficult in high school, let me just say this: it's harder in college, okay? So you're taking it on a daily basis in high school. That may be a better solution for you. Think about your testing timeline. Again, our goal is that you not stress about that. You may decide that you're going to take the state SAT in April and call it good. And you know what? We would applaud you for that. If you feel that you do need to take an ACT as well, totally okay. But don't rush to do it, because we will be honest, it has been a hot mess this fall with testing. So we don't anticipate it's going to get better in the near future. It may be better by spring or summer. And then plan time for virtual or maybe in-person college visits over summer vacation, maybe spring break. But certainly you can sit down anytime and do that online. Okay, a couple other things to do. After spring break, do not do this before then. Your teachers will flip out. You may need to request a teacher recommendation at that point. But the caveat is, if you need one. Many colleges do not require a teacher letter of recommendation. So it's something, again, to read the fine print of the colleges you're considering. Is that even something that's necessary? Teachers spend a lot of time writing those recommendations and really working on them. So if you can save them an hour, which is probably the average of what they spend on each letter, that's a kindness on your part. Start thinking now about putting together a resume, and there are tools for that on both SCORE and Naviance, where you can start thinking about, okay, what was I involved in my 3 to 4 years of high school, right? What are the things that I'm going to list on an application? It will save you incredible time next year as you are completing those applications. Start thinking about summer. I know it's the dead of winter, almost, and that seems a little early, but what might be out there for you to get involved in next summer? Hopefully by then a vaccine is going to be part of our world, and things may open up for you. And then of course, continue to narrow your college choices through research, campus visits, talks with your counselor, college counselor, and of course your parents.
Okay, and then from tonight into next fall, the main thing we want you to do is keep your options open, okay? Where you're at today in terms of what you're thinking for life after high school could be very different than 3 months from now, from a year from now. So keep your options open, look at all of your options, think about who you want to become. Don't worry about what your friends are doing. What is the right path for them may not be the right path for you, like we've said before in this presentation. And then be open. Your list is going to change as you learn more about yourself and as you learn more about all the different types of colleges that are out there.
All right, now, this is big. Before we go to Q&A, we know that there are definitely juniors and or parents who are anxious to set up a junior conference with Mrs. Bolito or I. This is how you do it. If you click on the links, it will take you to a scheduler. You can find a date and time. Remember to think about your class schedule. And you can find the time that works best for you. There's a short survey we have you complete, and then you are on our calendar. It's that simple. Right now, I know my calendar is scheduled out through essentially the end of January, and then we will update it again as we get closer to that. So we do junior conferences literally the rest of the year. So if that feels like, oh my gosh, that's way too soon, that's okay. This is something that you can do as easily in April as you can in January or February. So there is no rush. I know there are a handful of students who are just anxious to start the process. So we are available for that.
And I would also say, parents, if your student's not exactly ready to have that conversation yet, wait a little, because that might change as they start to see other juniors talking more about college. But definitely wait for your student to be ready for that appointment. And of course, you can email us if you have individual concerns.
And as another note, parents are welcome to attend that. It is truly up to you how you do it. We do ask though that it's either student or student and parent, but we prefer not to do just parent unless it's truly a special situation, because that's, we really do want the student to be part of that conversation. Okay, congratulations everybody, you did great. So we will tackle the Q&A, and I want to go back and answer some of the questions we might have missed, because there were a couple that came in pretty early.
Yeah, I've kept a running log here of all of the ones that have come in. Some of them I think we've answered along the way.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amy, you can.
Well, somebody had asked about the state SAT, that if you've already taken an SAT, do you have to take it again in April? Yes, that is the state SAT, and it is actually a graduation requirement for every student in Illinois. So our seniors were supposed to take it last spring, but couldn't because of COVID. So they actually took the state SAT this past October. You guys will hopefully be able to take it in April. All right. What else? There was another SAT.
So there were a couple LHS questions. One was, how would they get access to Naviance?
Yep. I am going to be sending out an email with the recording of this presentation. Probably we'll get to it tomorrow or the next day by the time we convert it. In there, we'll have all the links and everything to get into it. But here's the good news. Naviance is very easy to get into. Every junior has an account, and it has what's called single sign-on. So that means the student just clicks log in with single sign-on. They choose their school Gmail address, their lhswildcats.org, and they're in, okay? The juniors logged into SCORE last spring. I met with them back in February before the lockdown happened, and the vast majority of them are logged in. So for those who haven't registered, again, like Becky will send out a reminder to do that again. But hopefully you save the password on your account. If not, we can get into that. Now, parents currently do not have their own Naviance account, but they can get in with their student. That's changing soon though. Naviance has introduced a single sign-on for parents. We just are working to get it set up right now. So it literally was just released like a week ago. So you'll be getting information about that from me very soon.
And actually with SCORE, if you activated your account, you can do the single sign-on too. So if you don't remember what password you set, you can go through your Google sign-in and it should work just fine.
Great. Somebody asked, how would we know if a specific school will accept a student? So I think it's, how do we know if it can be our fail-safe school or our foundation school? This is where SCORE and Naviance really come in. Those scattergrams or heat maps, as they're called in SCORE, are amazing. A student can look at their weighted or unweighted GPA. You can use either one. And find themselves on a scattergram. And the scattergram includes symbols for admitted students, students who might have been waitlisted, or students who were denied admission. And based on where that student is, they can get a sense of, am I surrounded by symbols of students who've been admitted from Vernon Hills or Libertyville? If that's the case, you're probably in a good spot, right? Are you way above those students? Yeah, you're in a really good spot, and maybe there's scholarship money for you, right? So you can start to anticipate that. Again, the college offers an academic profile of their students as well on their website. I'll be honest, it's not always easy to predict that. And as you can imagine, there are certain colleges in the country where it's very hard to predict if a student will be admitted or not, simply because of the amount of applications that they get in their competitive application process. But I would say use those resources that we have on Naviance and SCORE. All right. Oh, here's a great one, Becky. Even if colleges are test optional, are they still using these scores for scholarships?
It depends. So a lot of schools have come out and said that they will be test optional, not just for admission, but also for scholarships. But like everything with college searches and college admission, every school kind of does their own thing. Some schools will say we're test optional for admission, except if you're going to apply to our nursing program, for example. Or they might say for scholarships, you can get some money without a test score, but if you have a test score and it's at this number, you can get more money. So there's not a clear-cut answer we can give you. And I think Matt Steiner in his presentation in February is going to touch more upon that, especially, you know, colleges are still thinking about what they're going to do with the class of 2022 when they're applying to college. So hopefully we'll know more then too, but yeah, it just depends.
We also had a couple of questions, I think, about foreign language and what is considered a level. Colleges look at the level you've completed. So yes, if you're in Spanish 4 as a sophomore or junior, you've done 4 years of Spanish. That is how the colleges view that. So it's not necessarily taking it all 4 years of high school. Some of our students complete that much sooner than that. So I hope that answers that question for you guys. Do all universities require an SAT or ACT? I would add to that. No, currently it's nationally, correct me if I'm wrong, Becky, but I think we're at 85% of the colleges are test optional now. So they are not requiring a test score. Those who still are, honestly, are probably regretting that decision right now. Because their students are just simply having a hard time taking the test. It's very, very difficult to do that. So I would look for schools that are test optional, certainly, and we will give you links to, there's whole databases of all the colleges that are test optional. Right now, there are fewer schools who are still requiring tests than those who are test optional.
A couple questions that I saw towards the bottom here, Amy, are talking about the SAT and ACT and timing. And one question was, you know, if we didn't know about the April test that students have to take, should we cancel the test in March? And that's going to be up to you. We certainly have students that take it that close to each other, but it's knowing your student and knowing if that's a good decision or if they're going to be too stressed, overwhelmed, just like test it out at that point. And somebody else asked, you know, and this happens often where the state SAT falls like a few days away from one of the national ACT or SAT dates. And again, that's going to be you need to know yourself. Are you going to be so fatigued from taking the test earlier in the week that maybe you should push that Saturday test to the next month? Maybe. Do we have students that take that, you know, back-to-back test? Yes, absolutely.
And one of the other things to remember for the spring is, are you taking any AP exams? Again, we don't know what those are going to look like this year. Last year was certainly interesting. But if APs are in your, that's part of your testing timeline, you know, is that something you have to plan for as well? We never want students to be so beaten down by just taking these tests constantly in the spring. That is not the goal, and it usually backfires on students. It's not going to say they're going to test better the more they take the test. So optimally, I would shoot for, you know, at least the state SAT and perhaps 1 or 2 other tests sometime in the spring and summer. That would be our push right now.
And the thing that you have to keep in mind too, and Matt may have touched on this, but if you're spending all of your time on test prep and taking the test and doing that over and over, that is time you could be spending enhancing other portions of your application. So, you know, time is not infinite. So you just need to decide, like, where do you want to invest your time? And we're saying, you know, it doesn't necessarily, we don't want students to become all consumed with testing. And especially in this day and age where more and more colleges are going test optional, there's less reason to. We have a couple questions about whether the state SAT is different from the national. No, it's the exact same. You can use it as one of the scores if you choose to send your scores to colleges. We do not automatically send your SAT score anywhere. That's going to be something we talk more about as it gets closer to test time. You will have the option to send it for free to 4 different colleges, but you will also have the option to not to if you would rather not send it anywhere.
And another piece of advice or guidance from both of us and your counselors and everybody, when it comes to testing, the state SAT in April, it does include the essay or the writing section. That's because the state of Illinois contracted that with College Board. But if you do sign up for an additional SAT or ACT, we recommend don't sign up for the essay portion at all. That costs extra, and the colleges do not require that anymore. There are gosh, is there anybody who actually requires it? I think maybe West Point, and that's it. So we really recommend you not take that. You will have to take it as part of the state SAT. So that will cover you if you do want to send that to colleges. But some of our students were really stressed about that score. And I'm like, they don't look at it. They really do not look at that essay section anymore. So we're hoping it just goes away in a couple of years.
Absolutely. We have a question. Is it advisable for families to take a self-guided campus tour if school-led tours are not available? What do you think about that, Amy?
So I think everybody is always assessing the risk of, traveling and visiting a college and interacting with people. And if you want to just walk around a campus, I think you're fine. As long as everybody's masked up and being sensible, that's fine. Oftentimes students have shied away or said, well, I don't want to visit colleges in the summer. And I'm always like, well, why not? You can still get a sense of the place, the space, the people who work there. There will still always be a few students around. I think the same is true in a pandemic. You can still get a sense of it. You just have to, determine your own sense of risk and reward with that. I think it's really up to the family.
Someone just asked, how do colleges view weighted versus non-weighted GPAs? Amy, do you want to answer? I mean, I know what I would say, that we don't know ever what colleges are doing behind closed doors. They can recalculate GPAs. Right. With the classes that they like, that they, are focused on. So don't be too concerned about where your number falls exactly as a weighted number or as an unweighted number. When it becomes more critical, usually is like if it's a scholarship and there's a specific cutoff that they want. It just depends on the college if they say it's based on a weighted GPA or an unweighted GPA. But for acceptances, they manipulate the grades themselves and recalculate all the time.
It's one of those, it depends answer. Yeah. It totally depends on how the college reviews their applications, but that is something that you can find out from them, and they will share how they do it and their rubric or criteria that they use to evaluate applications. All right. I think we got the big ones.
Yeah, we had some specific to the UC schools, which, why don't you do email Ms. Belstra or myself. Yep. If you had questions about that. Those are pretty specific. To prepare for the meetings with me, all juniors will have a survey in SCORE that asks questions that I ask you to fill out before we meet. Amy, where can LHS kids fill out your questionnaire? Is it just when they make the appointment?
It's when you make the appointment. It's part of Calendly. So yeah.
And you'll get a notification with the confirmation saying like, please fill out the survey and score for Mrs. Bolito.
Right.
But I think, I think we hit the big ones, like you said, Amy, and we've held people for an hour and a half. So thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I remember last spring on March 13th on March 13th, I was meeting with you guys, with the juniors. You are currently juniors, but you were sophomores at that time when we were finding out that we were going into a lockdown. So you've probably forgotten all of that stuff, but both Mrs. Bolito and I really look forward to getting to know you better and helping you through this process. So like we said, let's embrace the uncertainty together and go with the class of 2022. So thanks everybody. Have a great night.